Hello and welcome back to another video. I'm working on my GT3 Honda Fit again, and today I am installing these TCS Camber / Castor kits that go on top of your coilovers. Pretty fancy. Okay, these guys are the tailored chassis solution Tophats. They do fit multiple Hondas. GT3, GE, GK, and ZF1. They won't work with every single type of coils, but they will work with a lot of them. I'm not 100% yet if they're going to work with mine. Guess I'm going to have to find out. I know they work with BC coils, so if you have BCs, these are definitely for you. I am currently running the Fortune Autos 510s. They said they should work with mine, so I'm gonna find out and hope they work. Now the downside to these Tophats is there's quite a bit of cutting involved, so you have to cut a lot of stuff out. The thing about these fits is they don't have the normal 3-bolt Tophats like you see in like a lot of Humlers, a lot of imports and other cars. They suddenly just have a single nut that holds the top hat in. So in order to install these, you're going to have to cut out this top guy right here and drill your own holes for the top hats to work. So unfortunately, once you do this, it's kind of no going back. You essentially have to run coils or run these top hats, because you can't really go back to the traditional strut after you make this cut. So it's one thing you gotta consider. They do make top hats for like where you can use the factory setup, but you don't get nearly as much adjustment out of it. You can get a little bit of camber out of it and only like 1 degree of castor. So if you want anything more than 1 degree, you're gonna have to go do something like this, and it's gonna involve some cutting, unfortunately. Since this is primarily a track car, I don't mind cutting it up, so that's what I'm going to do. So my primary reasons for going to these is I want as much castor as I can get for a little bit better handling, and yeah, so I'm pretty good on Camber, so I'm going to set this to maximum castor with a. That's another good thing about this. This does both. You can set it where it does castor and camber, or you can set it to where it only does camber as well. But before you do this, definitely do your research on adjustments and suspension setups. I'm not an expert, so if you have a street car, then yeah, you probably don't want to do this. This is definitely for track cars or cars if you want to get significantly camber around it. So if you're one of those camber boy hot boys and you want your wheels to be like this, then yeah, this is definitely for you. But before I get started and like actually cutting stuff, I'm going to take my coil, at least one coilover, out of the car and make sure that the top hat does fit it correctly. Then I will go about making my cuts. Okay, I'm not going to go step by step on how to install and remove the coilovers on this car, because I do have a video already of me installing the Fortune Auto 510s on the GT3 Honda Fit. I'll put a link up here. Most of this should be about the same, almost the same, for a GE Honda Fit as well. There's some very minor differences, mostly doing up here. Probably only took me like 5 minutes to get this guy out. Pretty easy. It's probably a little bit harder if you have the factory suspension still. As you can see, this guy only uses the one single bolt or nut to secure it. Okay, I'm going to continue taking the coilover apart. Essentially I have to take all this guy off until I get to the spring. Also going to take this spacer off. Different coilovers will have different stack ups, probably, more likely. And clean this guy off while I'm here. Okay, I got this all cleaned up. Then you take this part. You want these facing up. Slide those down. As you see, my spring no longer fit anymore. I am going to have to adjust this, adjust my preload when I'm done. Next is the big guy. Slide it over. And take your specialty nut, the spacer side down. Roll it down. Okay, this is a 17 mil. Depending on your coil, you might have to use an Allen wrench on the top while you tighten your 17 mil. Now that I know this is nice and good and it fits pretty nicely, I'm going to have to get rid of this slop. So I'm going to go with 0 preload. I'm going to loosen this collar, run it up till it touches, then tighten it back down. Essentially went up until there's no slop in the spring, but there's not very much tension on it, just enough for it to not flop around. Then I'll tighten this guy up. Okay, now I got this guy back together. I am gonna have to take this back off. So I am gonna have to use it as a as a template when I make my cuts on it. But at least now I know it fits and will work. So if you have a Fortunato 510s or if you have BC coils, then yeah, these should work for you. Now we get to do the fun part. Is start working on actually cutting into the car. But first I'm going to jack up the other side, take that coilover out, and it will be easier if you take the windshield wiper cowling thing off, especially on the GEs, because the strut tower is farther down in there on those cars. GT3s are a little bit easier to get to. So let's get to it. Okay, I got my passenger side coilover out, and now I'm going to work on removing all this. It's one of those things you don't have to do on a GC, but it will make life a little bit easier to cut some stuff. Okay, that cowling is off. I'll probably broke a few tabs on it. Oh well. Now these are out in the open. They're pretty easy to get to. I went ahead and took my hood off to make things even easier. And got ready for the fun part. You're essentially gonna have to cut the whole top portion of it off. I marked it on the bottom of Sharpie. If you see the blue Sharpie, I'm gonna have to cut that.
This is the worst.
Hey, it's actually the next day. I had to go run some errands and pick up some more cutting discs. before all the damn snow fell. And the roads got stupid. That's a white shit out of here. I also had to go have a little bit of fun in the Subi earlier today. Maybe some donuts and stuff. But now that I'm done having fun in the snow, now I'm gonna get to cutting. No turning back. There's a few different ways to go about cutting these. I have a few options. I'm just gonna try whatever. Might jump between the different tools to see what works best. Okay, I got most of it out. I know it's not pretty. I'm just slowly Swiss cheesing it, chopping it and chopping it and chopping it with the different tools. The big one can do most of it. If this thing was more powerful, had a sharper blade, it would probably work as well to just follow the line around. But as long as you don't go too deep, that's why I'm only going a little bit at a time. I'm not even to the blue mark yet. As you can see, it's mostly there. But now I'm close, probably going to use the flat disc to slowly grind it down. See, that guy did a pretty good job. Looks pretty nice, pretty clean. I will clean it up when I'm done. I still have to drill my 3 holes for that guy. So now I gotta mark those holes. These 2 guys are all different from left to right. This is the right one, so which will go on this side. Okay, now this part is really important of how you orient this plate or where you do the holes. If you want as much caster as you can get, you're going to want this guy to slidey bit at a 45-degree angle. You can kind of see how I have this guy marked. So imagine a line going towards the center of the core. If you want to get as much camber, you want to set it that way so the slider goes left and right. So we want something in the middle. So diagonally towards the center of the core. You want that facing. Also keep in mind this is going to go on the bottom of the strut tail. I'm just kind of eyeballing things. I'm probably going to have to trim this guy up a little bit. Okay, I got this trimmed down. I went ahead and chopped this one down as well. I will clean up better later. Looks more likely the nut for this will interfere. I'll probably also have to trim this a little bit more. So just fine tune things as you go. And now I need to mark my stud holes. Instead of using the right side plate, I'm going to use the left side, the opposite plate. What I'm going to do, I'm going to flip it upside down. And I'm going to mark my holes from the top. I know it's a little confusing, but it's probably easier to mark this way. As you can see, I got it roughly 45 degrees. And I noticed here, there's a little spot weld, a little circle, where this happens to line up on. And I think there's one over here as well. Like there, it also happens to line up. So I'm going to mark these and drill this guy first. Okay, I got all my holes drilled. I did it one at a time, just so I know I did it right the first time. Like I said, there's a rivet here that you can follow, there's a rivet here that you can follow. So as long as you got those two, this one should be pretty easy. I am going to have to trim this guy a little bit more, that way I can tighten that nut. I'm also going to have to trim here a little bit, so that nut can go all the way down. Other than that, looks pretty good. Hey, I cleaned it up a little more, sanded it down, got all nice and smooth so it's not going to cut the fuck out of me when I touch it. This side is pretty much done, so now we can work on this side, which for the most part is going to be the same. The only thing that's different is where the holes go through. So I'll let you know when I get to that point. Okay, this side's slightly harder because you have to get underneath the windshield wiper. Might have been easier if I take that out. You know, but I like to do things the hard way. But I got it pre-trimmed down. Also had to trim this corner, it looks like, just by eyeballing it. And it's a similar thing on this side where there's like a rivet hole, a spot weld. I'm going to make my first hole and just go from there. Okay, I got two of my holes drilled. I did have to remove the windshield wiper thingy. It's only 310 mils and a plug, so not that bad. Just take it out of the way. Do you a favor, because that hole is a little bit harder to get to mark it, but it's marked. And like I did on that side, I took the opposite top hat, so this is the passenger side top hat, flipped it upside down. I'm using it to make my marks, make my holes. So we just have to drill this one last one out. Hey, that one's done. Looks like they both match. So the hard portion, annoying parts all done. Now I just have to do some fine tuning, smoothing it out, that type of stuff. Example, I'll probably take this leads down a little bit more. You can leave some of this on if you want. The main priority is being able to get to these 4 bolts, and also for this not to hit the inner ring. As long as you can get to these bolts, you know, it's fine to leave some of it there. I will probably remove just a little bit more. Then I will smooth everything out. And yeah, we'll be almost there. And after I get it all smoothed out in the way I want it, looking clean, then very important, you want to paint it. All those spots where you grind the paint off, you know, throw some paint on it, that way that stuff doesn't rust, because it will rust. Especially if you live up north or something. This last thing you want is your strut towels resting your port. Okay, I got some primer on the bits I cut. So while that's drying, it's gonna take a while because it's 50 degrees in the garage. Yeah, put a light on it. Hopefully I hope a little bit. While I was drying, I put these guys back together. I got my preload set. Essentially, those are ready to go in as soon as paint dry. Which I am gonna do a little bit of silver on it after the primer's dry, so it looks all fresh and clean. Okay, all the paint is dry, so now I can start putting everything back together. Gotta put my windshield wiper, all that cowling stuff. Then I can finally throw the suspension back in, which I might have to do some height adjustment. I guess I'll find out when the car is back on the ground. Hey, I got the car all back together, got the hood on, battery in, everything all tightened up, got wheels back on. But I am not done. If you're doing this much work to the suspension, it is very important to get a alignment done. If you know how to do it, you have the tools, you can do it yourself, or take to somebody who's familiar with track setups, aftermarket setups, and have them align it. But luckily for me, I have the tools to do it myself. I'll get pretty close, so I'm going to do that. It's not like I can test drive it or anything. Normally I would test drive a vehicle after I do a mod before I finish the video, but it's still a little white outside. Yeah, something tells me I'm not doing any test driving in that. But that is it for this video. Remember, this is one of those things, there's no turning back if you do this. So do your research before cutting up your car. And yeah, and while you're here, hit that subscribe button, really help me out. And hit the likes and all those other buttons. And I'll see you next time. Peace.